Have you ever felt like you wanted more? Well, I hope your answer to that question is yes. We're going to be talking about abundance. What does it mean and how do we get more of what it is that we want? The Anatomy of Abundance is one of the books that we're publishing here at Action Takers Publishing, and I'm so excited to introduce to you the woman behind the scenes, the one who had the idea. It's her brainchild, and we're bringing it to you today. So we're going to bring up Patrina Wisdom in just a minute. We're going to be talking about abundance, how you can have more out of your life. First of all, I can see Patrina dancing in the background, which is awesome. I mean, she likes that song. Anatomy of Abundance. This is a most recent book that launched by Action Takers Publishing, and I'm excited about this because abundance is something that I myself didn't really understand too much about, and I realize as reading these chapters that there's always more that we can learn, and about learning about how can we have more abundance in our own lives. You can get your copy of Anatomy of Abundance by going to go.patrinawisdom.com/abundance. go.patrinawisdom.com/abundance. I'm going to bring Patrina to the stage. Patrina, oh my gosh, this book here, I'm so excited about it because the authors really dive in deep about how we can have more abundance in our lives. And why don't you share with us, before we get into like more about you, why don't you share with us, how did this book title come to be and what's it all about, Alfie?
Oh my good Alfie. Well, I love the introduction. Thank you. I love the music. I'm grooving. I am so incredibly excited about this book. This was like a project that was downloaded to me by Spirit, as most things that I've done are. In January, I was downloaded the name Anatomy of Abundance. I had no clue what it was going to be, but it just like lit my entire body up. I was like, yes. So I trademarked it and then proceeded to rebrand the system that I've been using to guide my own life and the lives of clients in creating abundance in their lives. And I rebranded it the Anatomy of Abundance Framework. Once I did that, Spirit was like, that's the book. And so I kind of had this little war going on with myself as to whether or not I would write this book solo, as I've done before with my last book, Motherhood's Not for Punks, or if I wanted to enroll other professionals, experts, coaches, like people who had a strong foundation in the different topics that we're discussing in the book. And again, body just lit up. It was a hell yes. So that's what we did. We proceeded to go forward. I started talking to people about the idea of the book. Everyone I talked to about it was extremely exciting, including yourself. And we had done a podcast interview for my Living Room Wisdom podcast. So of course you were a no-brainer to use as my publishing company. And as they say, the rest is history. So even though we only actually worked on the book for the last 6 months, this has been brewing and marinating for a year. And I cannot believe that people can now get their hands on it and read it and allow it to transform their lives.
Oh my gosh, that's so fantastic. And like, we'll just give that little teaser that volume 2 is in the works. I know, talk about that a little bit, because that just came to be. So talk about that a little bit.
Literally like chills again. Literally when I was in the shower this morning, getting ready for this interview, Spirit was like, you're going to do volume 2. And the funniest thing about the way Spirit works, the way I work, the level of faith and trust that I have just in the process and the unfolding, which is living in abundance, by the way.
Right.
When we were working on this volume of the book and we were doing the cover art, we had 2 pieces of cover art that we absolutely loved that fired us up. We had this version, which is the burgundy version, but there was also a gold version of the book. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I can't foresee the future, but let's save that second version in case I do another volume. Literally had no clue that I was going to do it for sure, but look at how spirit works.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so amazing because abundance is something that, again, like you mentioned, it's that trust and faith that this, spirit, that, the guidance, whatever we believe in, that it is guiding us to the abundant world that we are meant to have, every single
Yes.
one of us. But so many of us live in a lack mindset. I did that for the first 51 years of my life, and then started to kind of grasp the idea that I deserve more out of life. And that's like what's been transpiring. And I'm going to share this right now. Patrina, I don't know if you've seen like what I've been posting, but we're doing the domestic violence awareness telethon. Why telethon? Because that's the message that was delivered to me. You're doing a telethon. And we started off with, it was going to be 2 days. And then I was like, it's going to be a week. And then what downloaded to me was that domestic violence awareness is an entire month. So you're going to do a month, 24 hours a day. And so I'm sharing this because it's all about jumping into that belief that I can do this, because I know there are way greater forces behind this than me. It's not about me. And so that's what this abundance, like, talk about the framework of the anatomy of abundance, because the authors that you've brought into this book, we're talking about what's called the higher law and the foundational law, and talking about that. And like, what does this all mean? The people that you've brought into this book, how did you find the people? Like, answer all the questions, Patrina.
No worries. So I first want to acknowledge you. This telethon idea is beyond, again, whole body lit up with chills. This is going to be absolutely amazing. One of the things I also want to shed light on is that I believe, and I know actually, that your willingness to say yes and move forward with these projects that spirit or whoever your higher power puts on your heart is not only a trust in spirit, but it's a trust in yourself, and also the knowing that you don't have to do it alone. And that is an abundance mindset, right? That is an abundance mindset. And it takes some of us so long to really step into that belief and that knowing. So we'll just say that, and I'll leave that there. In regards to the anatomy of abundance framework, y'all who know me, I've had a freaking journey. Okay. So talk about going from scarcity to abundance. I've done it. I've alchemized all the scarcity mindset, the beliefs, the habits, the people, just all of the things that would root me in creating from a space of scarcity. And I've alchemized it into creating an entire ecosystem around abundance. And the way that I've done that is by really living my own anatomy of abundance framework, which is knowing who the fuck you are. I think I can cuss here, right?
I guess you can.
I mean, who the bleep you are outside of expectations, your roles, what society tells you you're meant to do or be. So who are you? That's step one. Step two is to identify the disempowering thoughts, patterns, habits, languaging, all of the things that are keeping you from moving out of from moving out of a scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset. The third part is sacred self-care. So that's treating yourself as if you are divinity, because we are, right? Spirit works through us. So your mind, your body, your spirit, everything, treating yourself impeccably. The D in the system is declare. And you're going to declare to the world, to yourself, to your loved ones, exactly who you are, the truth of who you are, and then design your entire life around that. Your boundaries, just everything needs to support the truth of who you are. The O in the system is organize. So those are some of the higher laws. The declare is where we start to move into more of the foundational law of the system. And so once we declare it, we need to organize everything in our life around that truth of who we are. So that's strategies, that's systems, that's systems for communications, time management, self-management, all of the things. And then M is move into action with accountability and support, which is where your community comes in, which is where coaches and mentors and teachers come in. So when you string everything together, in essence, the anatomy of abundance framework is to use wisdom.
Oh
So
man.
authors speak to the different steps, one speaking more to higher law, one speaking more to the foundational law. So data, scientific background, like all of the things. So this way we can attract not only the very spiritual kind of, as they say, woo-woo sector, but also the very practical, maybe more analytical people. So no matter who you are, you're going to connect with someone in this book, and you're going to get exactly what you need to take those steps towards creating abundance in your life. So I'm so
Oh,
excited.
oops. I put the wrong thing up there. It is such a brilliant idea. And, I can't believe it was just January of last year that this all came to you, and look what's transpired from that. And this is the idea, right? So like, there is abundance out there. And a lot of times our lack mindset, our scarcity mindset, it stops us from trying something.
Yeah.
It stops us dead in our tracks. Like, oh no, that's impossible because that's too much. I can't do it. And so what is it about you, Patrina, that makes you believe that you can do it, whatever it is?
Great question. That's a great question. So the key to creating abundance is massive immediate action. When you get a nudge, when you get a download from spirit, if you hear people like saying something or calling you into something more than 2 or 3 times, that's something you need to pause and acknowledge and take massive immediate action on. Where the scarcity comes in is where we procrastinate and we don't think we're worthy and all of these different things. So to answer your question, where it came from for me is a very challenging upbringing that involved sexual abuse and just all sorts of toxicity, and growing up with a teenage mother who had me at 16 years old, who was a single mom, absolutely did her best job raising me, absolutely did a wonderful job. However, there were lots of lessons along the way. So through my own, I guess, my own healing and my own evolution into womanhood and into my own wisdom, I think that I just learned so many lessons, and I've proved to myself time and time and time and time and time again that when I listen and act and take immediate action on what spirit puts on my heart, not what I want, because spirit laughs at our plans, that it's always going to work. It's always going to be successful. I'm always going to have the support, and that things are going to show up to meet me and make whatever it is that I'm kind of on purpose for happen. And so that includes everything from, moving multiple times with my 4 kids after my husband's passing, and just all sorts of things. So literally any situation, whether it's love, whether it's money, whether it's health, any situation that would throw you into a state of scarcity, unraveling that, rewiring that, and moving forward in abundance mindset.
That rewiring, that's the piece that it sometimes can be a little scary, because we are so used, we're creatures of habit. We really are. And so we want things to be the way they always were, but have to realize that in order for us to effect change in our lives, they can't be the way they always were. So we're talking to the curator of the book, Anatomy of Abundance, Patrina Wisdom. You can connect with her at patrinawisdom.com. We're going to be talking about some of the other things she's up to and what she's doing. I want to talk about, there was something that you said there that made me realize that one of the things that I've done is to break through fears. Like I broke through a fear every single day for a year. That right there, what I didn't know was happening is I was rewiring my brain in relation to fear. So every day I would wake up, I would say what scares me, and I would commit to breaking through whatever that fear was that day. And so what ended up happening is I was rewiring my process of, what does fear mean? Fear is not scary for me anymore. And so
Right.
I still have fears. And what I love about this is that, because you mentioned about, the faith, like, right, tapping into our faith. I came up with an acronym that is FEAR. It's faith erases anxious reactions. It's when our faith is strong, our fear is weak. So what this means is when our fear is strong, our faith is weak. This is our faith in ourselves, our faith in our surroundings, like mentors and coaches and family and friends, our support system, and then our faith in our higher power. I believe in God, right? And so my faith in God, like, how strong is my faith? If my fear is strong, My faith is weak. I must check into that. And what I love about the anatomy abundance framework is this helps you to move into that place of faith, faith in yourself that you got this, faith in yourself that, my little ideas really are grand when we open ourselves up to the possibilities of what's out there for us. And so like that's what happened to me with the domestic violence awareness telethon is it started as 2 days and then expanded to 31 days, 24 hours a day. This is a huge undertaking. Can I do this myself? Impossible.
Right.
Impossible. So
Yeah.
So I love that.
I want to just speak to what you said about
Yeah.
change in your identity when you decided to break through these fears.
Yeah.
So our identity is literally the most powerful thing that we have, right? So depending on the identity that you're living as, whether it's been given to you, like put upon you, or whether it's really the truth of who you are, once you discover the truth of who you are and you rewire and you've kind of grounded into your real identity, let me tell you, personal development and spiritual development is a shit show. Okay. Like it's going to blow everything else up around you because you're no longer showing up as the version of yourself that you used to be. And so one of the steps in the system in the organized chapter is that it really is about then creating new communication styles and new ways to be in relationship with others based on the truth of who you are. This is where this book comes in handy because we can all do the personal development work. We can all get strategies and all of these things. But when you are really seeking to merge the higher law and the foundational laws and become an embodiment of the truth of who you are, that's the real work. And so this book will not only act as a guide. It's not a book you're just going to read and put on the shelf. You see all those books back there. This is a book you're going to revisit quarterly or annually, almost like a Think and Grow Rich type book where it becomes the guidebook for your life. And then not only do you have access to the book, but we've created a book club. So if you are someone who wants to continue the journey, because what happens is when you start to change and shift, not everybody in your circles are on that same train.
That's for darn sure.
Right. So now you need the support. And so what we've thought about and what we've very intentionally created is a space that you can come into with the authors and have the guidance and the encouragement and be able to literally engage with the authors and the experts as you're on this path to transforming your life. So I feel, and this is a really bold statement, that this is my legacy. My legacy, this Anatomy of Abundance book and everything that we're creating in support of this movement, because it's not a book, it's a freaking movement. This is my legacy. I spent the first 50 years getting the experience and the wisdom and going through all of the pain and overcoming it so that I can pour the solutions into this book along with all of my incredible community of experts and be able to support for the next 50 years.
I love it. And beyond. And beyond. Yes, get your copy of the book at go.patrinawisdom.com/abundance. And then also, there are other things that she's doing over there, but then connect with Patrina in other areas at patrinawisdom.com. Go check it out. And the Anatomy of Abundance, what I love about it, again, just that a whole abundance thing. And one thing that happened for me, I say for me, is that I ended up losing friends when I started growing and shifting and changing because they weren't there. They didn't want to come along with me. And that's okay. We have to be okay with that. And that's one of the things that you're going to get, the support. It's not just a book club. It's about support. And that's the thing. The word book club is it's underrated for what you're doing, Patrina, what you're putting together and the transformation that will come from this. It's a way of you learning that this, the way I was it was good for me then. It was good for me then because, like, as Patrina mentioned, her first 50 years was the lessons that took her to where she is today. And same with me. Mine was the first 51 years. And then like from that, we get to be okay and confident in what we're doing because we have support from people around us. So just go get the book.
Just the beginning. It's literally for the people who are reading this and being exposed to these ideas for the first time or just very new on their journey. They can dip their toe in as far as the book club is concerned. But what we'll be creating on a bigger scale is an actual mastermind community where we're literally in it together, like deep in it. So I'm very excited. There's so many things unfolding. I don't really have all the clarity because Spirit tends to unfold them instead of giving me the entire plan. But what I'm very grateful for is all of these wonderful experts and the women in my community who I was able to attract into my life and who are so committed to what we're creating here.
Yeah. And with that said, if you want to be part of volume 2, please either comment right below, comment, say, I want information, or put abundance, something like that, something that lets us know that we should reach out to you, or reach out to Patrina in a DM or me in a DM. You can get more information on that. As she stated, this is a movement. It's not just a book. This is not just about being a book. And so that's
volume 2 will be very focused. So in the first volume, we're speaking on all aspects of life. In the next volume, we're going to really par down and dig deep into one topic, which will either be love or money. And there's also this feeling that maybe it would be a little bit of both because they definitely affect each other. How you approach one affects the other. So, but right now, that's all I got for you. But if you're interested, definitely DM, comment. We'll, the vision is going to create itself as it always does.
Now, Patrina, will you share, like, who would be a good fit for this book, or do you not even know that yet?
No, I absolutely know.
Okay.
Very similar to this book. It's still going to be based on the Anatomy of Abundance framework. So we're going to be looking for coaches, healers, scientists, psychologists. If it's going to be financially based, if we're going to have that, we want to have our financial planners and bookkeepers and money coaches and things of that nature. So we're always looking for experts. That's the key. We're not just telling a bunch of stories in these books. This is like very grounded work. And so, if you're someone who has an expertise in money or love or both, we would love to talk to you.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely be part of that, because it really is an incredible opportunity. I want to talk about the way we met. So we're going to go back in time, probably about 10 years ago, something like that. I was attending an event is called Moms Helping Moms. I think, I don't remember the exact name of it. I think it was Moms Helping Moms. It was an entrepreneurial networking event that I was attending. And Patrina was one of the speakers. And I got to tell you, she scared the crap out of me, because at that point, Patrina, I was just starting my personal development journey, which meant I was filled with fear. And that was, I believe it was in 2015 that I met you, because that was the year that I was breaking through a fear every day. I'm not sure if that was when it was
released. Motherhood's Not for Punks.
Okay, then that's it. Then that was the year I met you. And Patrina got up and she spoke, and I think it was like a 20-minute talk. And one thing that really stood out for me, this was the thing that scared me, was that you were stomping your feet on the ground. And what it was is she was taking up space, right? She believed in herself. And at that time in my life, I didn't have any belief in myself. And so it was like, when you showed up, I was like, wow. What an incredibly scary woman, because you had so much confidence, And so anyway, I want to talk about that. So you were advertising, you're talking about your book at that time, Motherhood's Not for Punks. So share with us a little bit about this book, because you can get your copy of that book at patrinawisdom.com. So share a little bit about that book.
Yes, I love that we're going back, because this was really a big, huge part of how I shifted my identity. So for those of you who don't know, I was someone who never wanted to get married, never wanted to have kids, total free spirit, entrepreneurial hippie chick, and ended up falling in love, getting married, having 4 amazing children, well, 3 at the time. And in January of 2009, my husband actually, unfortunately, took his own life. And so it was a very traumatic situation. My lover, my best friend, the father of my children, and I was put into a position where I had to step into and take on an identity that I was not comfortable with, which was the leader. I had spent a lot of my life hiding at 6 foot tall, very intentionally hiding and kind of dimming my own light. But when he was snatched out of my life, it was like Spirit was inviting me to really step into the fullness of who I am. So I created this book because now, after this incredible tragedy, I was a single mom, head of household, and I had not 3, but 4 children, because I found out on the same day that my husband took his life that I was pregnant with my 4th child. Mind you, I was also a full-time entrepreneur. So Motherhood's Not for Punks was the inception of the Anatomy of Abundance framework. It was like, how do I take care of myself, create boundaries, and live the fullest life that I can as a single mother with 4 children, as a full-time entrepreneur? So it's Motherhood's Not for Punks, a badass mom's guide to self-mastery, mindful mothering, and having it all when you do it all. Because society will have you think, oh, well, you're a mom, or you're a wife, or you're this, or you're that, and you're supposed to live a certain way. And I was like, F that. That's not me. And I'm not going to be something that I'm not. So I got to be resourceful and figure out how to live my fullest life while toting around 4 amazing children.
Right. Oh my gosh. What a tragedy. And sorry to hear that that happened. And, but then you've taken that and you've kept going and you're able to share the messages that you've learned through that, the lessons learned, which is one of the things you talk about. I want to go back to Anatomy of Abundance, because we didn't talk about your chapter yet. So your chapter title is Unmasking Your Authentic Self. And what I love about this is that when I was breaking through those fears every day, this is when I started to learn who I was. I had
Yeah.
lived my entire life as a people pleaser and filled with fear. If you're a people pleaser, you don't know who you are, because you're spending your whole life trying to please everybody else. So as you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, this transformational journey, it is definitely one. There was a lot of ugly crying going on, discovering who I am and what I'm all about, and moving into this place of authenticity. This was hard because it's scary to show up as yourself. And that's where the unmasking comes from, right? So share
Sure.
with us a little bit about your chapter, the unmasking your authentic self.
Yes, the unmasking is not for punks. Because when you unmask and truly let go of your people pleaser, which I was very guilty of. I mean, most people look at me now, they would have no idea that I struggled the way I did. And that was the people pleaser, that was self-consciousness. I had the worst body issues. A lot of people don't know that I was anorexic and bulimic for a very long time. I struggled with body image as a model, as a singer, as an actress, back in, a whole other life. But these are things I had to heal through. And the way that I healed through it is that I always just went back to, who is the truth of who you are? And the way that I did that is to remember who I was as a child. So one of the other misconceptions that people have of me is that I'm an extrovert, because I love people and I'm very animated, I'm very big, and I take up space. But the truth of who I am is that I'm an introvert. And when I forget that, I deplete myself and I feel frustrated and I feel, just undone, completely freaking undone. And so it's very important to get to the bottom of who you are outside of everything else, because then you can use that as a foundation for which to build your life. And I now have systems where honestly, I go out like once or twice a week, and the rest of the time I spend at home, and I love it. Literally, I've not been outside since New Year's Eve.
Nice.
So it's super cool. But this is the key, is that when you're really strong in your identity, you know what to say yes to, what to say no to. And it's not a protection like it used to be, that was based in fear. We're like, okay, I'm going to create this barrier so I don't get hurt. It's not that kind of protection. It's a systems based in abundance. Like, what do I need to fully show up and be impactful and be, like, be a positive force in the world? So it just comes from a different space. So unmasking your true self is literally the first step, which is why it's the first official chapter in the book and in the framework.
That's so fantastic. And it's really important for us to discover who we are. And
Mhm.
sometimes we have to go through a lot of layers to get there. I remember I was talking to somebody a couple weeks ago, and I said, how they talk about the layers of onion, like I'm like an onion layer. And I said, you know what? Once you get to the bottom, there's another freaking onion there. Like, the onions don't stop coming. It's like onion after onion, right?
I feel like I also really need to shed light on this. And
Yes.
that is that there's a expectation from society, from parents, from friends, from family, coworkers, all the things, to be one thing, right? So I really want to talk about duality because we even have a chapter about duality in the book. The truth is, you can be like the happiest you've ever been and be suffering at the same time. You can be very like free and free spirited and open and like what other people would say as wild, and still be kind of conservative and stuff, right? So there really is this duality that happens in life, but there's also a duality that happens within us. And I think the key to unmasking, accepting, and embodying the truth of who we are is to own all of it: the light, the dark, the confusing, like all of it. And
Right.
so I think that's where people who meet me, when they're like, wow, she unapologetically takes up space, I don't know what to do with that. That's what that is. It's because I really stand in all of my greatness and in my flaws. Like, we all have flaws. We all have things that we're still on the journey of maybe healing or growing in. So I just want to encourage everybody to do that. You know, really just start to take a look and embrace and have more grace with themselves in
Mm.
respect to the areas that other people may be ridiculing them about or questioning.
I love this because this is what I've been working on in the last year, is really embracing that other side, right? The part that I tried to avoid and get away from for, through the personal development life, start of that is I wanted to get away from all of that. But now I'm moving back into the pendulum swing. It's
Yeah.
swinging back to say, let's balance everything out now and, get to the real reality of who I am and what I'm all about. So this is fantastic. Oh my gosh. Time flies, Patrina. Time flies. So first, interviewing, Patrina Wisdom. She is the founder of Pure Abundance, Inc., and she's the brainchild behind the book that we've been talking about today, Anatomy of Abundance. Absolutely amazing book. Go get your copy. And also, I want to encourage you to please follow us, Action Takers Publishing. We are on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and Facebook. Just go to Action Takers Publishing. Please follow us on YouTube. We're trying to get to that 1,000 mark. And so we have a little ways to go. We love, every little click helps us to get there. And Patrina, I would love for you to share with the audience, what is one thing that you would like the readers to take away from reading The Anatomy of Abundance?
The one thing that comes to me when you ask me that question is permission. That is the one word that comes to me, and again, lights my entire body up, is give yourself permission to live as the fullness, the full person, the full everything that you truly are here to be. Don't let anyone stop you from, living in that space, because when you give yourself permission to live authentically and in the fullness of who you are, then you give other people permission to do the same. And by doing that is how we're going to completely change the world. So alchemize your scarcity to abundance and go out there and do and be and have everything that you've ever imagined in life.
Oh, fantastic. I love that's a great way to end this interview. Patrina, thanks so much for being here, for bringing this book to Action Takers Publishing, trusting us with the work on this, and so excited about it. Go get your copy at go.patrinawisdom.com/abundance, and we'll see you at some of the events we have going on. And
Launch party, January 28th.
That's right. January 28th, 2024. Get the information at go.patrinawisdom.com/abundance. Thanks so much, Patrina. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
One of the things that I've personally found from my experience of working with Action Takers Publishing is that I've walked away with more friends than I had before, because of the relationship that you build with the authors while working in an anthology. I think it's an amazing project to be able to get published. It's a fantastic way to get published the first time, and I've almost seen people who get hooked on doing anthologies, because once that bug is bitten, you feel like you can release more and more and more and more stories, and Linda's got a bunch of titles that I think resonates with a lot of us who live in the real world.